Well, I've come out this morning to a location where there's a lot of old and decrepit boats, but the boat I'd actually come to photograph has gone. And another one, which I quite like the idea of shooting, has fallen completely into decay. So it's only a year ago since I was last here, and I've been coming here for many years. Things have changed a little bit, so I'm going to have to get creative if I want to get a shot at all. Now I really like this particular boat you can see behind me, but I don't know if I'll be shooting it today. I shot it on large formats about 12-13 years ago when it was still bobbing around as a proper sailing boat. I got a lovely shot of it in some mud. I'll pop that up now if I can find it, but I'm looking for something, I don't know, maybe a bit simpler here. Right, I have made my shot of the wonderful old derelict boat you can see behind me, and it's not been easy. Least of my problems has been the camera this morning. It's the mud. It's absolutely glutinous and I'm struggling to work in it. I am absolutely covered in mud, but I'm very happy, and the reason I'm happy is I've got a shot. Now the shot took quite a long time in setup, preparation and selection, and I've had to make some compromises because with the 8x10 camera, even with the extensive movements it has, I couldn't get everything in focus. I just could not get the mud, the grasses and the boat in focus. So I've gone for a compromise. I've gone for a setup where I basically have the boat sharp. Now the boat has to be sharp for my image. It's the focal point, although it's only at the top of the frame. The grasses should be sharp in the foreground as well, but some of the midground, the mud, which is out of the plane of focus, is going to be slightly soft, even though I've used f32. Now, another reason for taking this shot is to exclude the rather ugly skyline. I'll just go over here. If you see behind me, there's a restaurant there, not a very attractive one. I believe the food's nice though, so don't want to diss them, but I didn't want that in the shot, and I didn't want the sky in the shot. And as you can see behind me now, I've got a bit of brightness in the sky. That's just going to drag your eye out. I'm trying to keep you focused on the boat. The boat is the important part, but it's not actually most of the image. The mud and the grasses are the majority of the image, but the boat is sort of the focal point. So yeah, quite pleased with this. Well, just a little bit more about the camera setup. I have a 240mm lens on the camera. Now that's equivalent to 35mm in full frame terms, so that's a moderate wide angle. Very nice for this location. It's also the widest lens I have for 8x10. It's only the second lens I have for 8x10. And I've had to use quite a bit of front tilt. Now the front tilt will allow me to move my plane of focus down and bring the boat and the grasses into focus, but it only goes so far, and you actually do lose depth of field in other areas. Believe it or not, the centre of the image won't be sharp, but the foreground and background should be. So it's a compromise, and to make matters worse, it's also been drizzling, and I don't want to get my 8x10 wet. It's not particularly waterproof, neither is the lens, and actually my vlogging camera I've got today isn't waterproof either, so challenging conditions all round. Now, my exposure settings were made with my trusty Sekonic spot meter, an L508, very old, very old, very basic, very good. And I took a reading from the underside of the boat, which is very dark. Now I want detail everywhere in this image. I want to be able to pull out as much as I like later. So that did give me a reading of around about half a second. Now I have made one exposure at half a second, which is really overexposing, but it is HP5 plus, and it is a very tolerant film. And I do have a lot of latitude with 8x10. Now, for the purists among you, you'll be glad to know I made another exposure at 1/4 of a second, so that is getting closer to what the true exposure should be. I am going to really emphasise the shadows. I really want to make this all about the detail in the boat and the mud, so I'm quite happy to push the exposure up in this case, knowing full well that I'll be able to bring it out in Lightroom later, and no real highlights to worry about either. Well, that's it from me, and good timing too, as the rain is starting again. So I'm going to get back to the car. I'm going to get all my gear cleaned up first. Yeah, have a look at the image now. I do hope you enjoy it. I hope it came out. And yes, nice short sweet trip. Definitely do more of these with the 8x10 this year. So if you like 8x10, I will be getting out more. It's definitely a getting out with black and white film. So yeah, as ever, I hope you enjoyed the outing, and I'll see you again on the next trip. Thanks for watching.